We're rolling. Amanda,
Awesome.
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Sky Oro,
Yes.
what is it?
All right. Sky Oro started as a vision that I had to create space where women would be able to come together that were smarter than me. And that was kind of like the single line of vision that I had. I knew that there would be some level of community and connection, but I never could have fathomed that it would turn into what it is today, which is very much a sanctuary for women. It's a space where women come to be witnessed and to be in the mess and to be in the celebration and to just show up, right? We have to put on so many masks, hats, cloaks, whatever it is for all of the roles that we have in the world. And we are all very much human. And there are not very many places that we are able to just show up in the realness and the rawness and have it be understood, honored, witnessed. And so Sky Oro is very much that for women. We have our physical space that is located in Bozeman, which facilitates coming together in person, having conversations, being face to face, giving hugs, just like that close proximity is a very powerful healing experience. And Sky Oro provides that for ambitious women who are mission driven and desire to make a difference in whatever it is that they're doing. It also provides that for women who are I'm shedding all of these things that I thought I needed to be, and I'm shutting down my business, or I'm leaving the corporate job and I'm going out to do something that really lights me up, but it feels really muddy right now, unclear. And women have a hard time showing up for community and for support when they feel like they have the expectation that I have to have it all figured out. So Sky Oro gets to be a space where women can come and just be in all of that and know that the women who are there are not going to judge her. We're going to start with curiosity first and just be witness to one another.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And that wasn't part of the vision when this started.
Sky Oro is almost 6 years old. On November 19th, we will celebrate 6 years of being in the Cannery District here in Bozeman. When I started it, I actually co-founded it with another woman, and I was a brand new mom. I had a corporate job. I worked remotely. I was on maternity leave when we started it. And her and I we had no idea what we were creating, no idea what we were building. I remember saying to her at one point, "So when do you think we're going to pay ourselves?" And she was just like, "Oh, I'm not going to pay myself." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And that was my mindset was, we're building this so that this space exists. We get to use it. We get to work out of it. We get to connect in it. I had no idea what it was going to take, what it was going to require, and what it was going to grow into for it to be a business that is the thing that I am blessed to be able to focus fully on right now, alongside being a mom.
I love when people they have a vision for something they want and they create it.
Yeah.
In their community or in their life.
Yeah. I mean, we can all say we want things. And we just had an event this morning at Sky Oro. There were 33 women in the room. And we went around just giving everyone an opportunity to say who they are, what phase of life they're in, and what are they wanting to get out of a group like the group that was gathered, which was female funders and female founders and women who want to participate in that ecosystem of women building things in Montana. And there's so much that we all want to take from experience within groups like that. But the thing is that we have to be willing to put our money where our mouth is. We have to be willing to build it. We have to be willing to say, okay, I see what's here. I know what I want. What's my role in making it happen? And it's so fun to be around people who understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd imagine it's fun being part of that group. As a business owner myself, I love being around business owners.
Yeah.
You don't feel so isolated when other people are dealing with the same types of struggles and triumphs and everything.
Yeah. And we can be unhinged in our desires to make things happen and know that nobody's going to be in here being like, "Oh, are you sure you can make that happen?" It's like, okay, fuck yeah. How can I help you? Like, what do you need? What kind of support are you looking for? What would move the needle for you? How can I connect you? That's really powerful.
That's cool. And that was just that was a byproduct of, hey, we want to have this space and we'd like to create this space where women can work together and facilitate.
I mean, we always knew that there was going to be a community aspect of it. We knew that there would be programming. And from the get-go, I knew that the community and the connection, because that's who I am. Like, I'm just a connector. I love to listen, have conversation, be in space with one another, with other people. I'm very extroverted in that way. And I always said, like, it's a community space that is a co-working space as a side effect. So that's been always kind of been my lens, but I had no idea how powerful and how important physical space would end up being in our lives, right? Because then, we opened in 2019, enter the world changing 4 months later, everything goes to Zoom. And I remember thinking, oh, am I even relevant? Like, does this even matter? People can just now do everything on Zoom, and that's the way of the world. But there was always something like, no matter what I tried to do on Zoom, there was always this nagging feeling of like, nope, it's in person. You have to fight to make sure that this space exists so that when people realize how important being in person is, they have somewhere to go, which has been the most humbling journey of my life next to being a mom. And I would say that they're both like up there in terms of just showing you what you're made of and feeling like they're trying to take me out at the knees.
You mean as far as running the business in general?
Building something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like I spoke to the delusion, right? It takes some level of delusion to make it happen.
What was the term you used?
It's like we just have to be delusional.
There's something like a knife's edge or something you said, or on the... Anyway, if you remember, great. If you don't,
it'll come back to me.
Yeah. So you know Shan. It's in the Cannery District there, the restaurant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jarrett was saying when he did the podcast that he was a journalist, and he was in 2006. He was thinking, oh, this is kind of going to go away. Writing. He was way ahead of the AI curve in that sense, and he had a food background because he wrote about food, and he said, well, people are always food's going to be a constant. So people are always going to need food. So he had a bunch of restaurants and then COVID hit. So how did you survive that? Because you're in startup phase when COVID hit. Hi, folks. Quick note from me. If you don't already know, the goal of Mountain Mule Media has always been to build real connections between Montana businesses and the people they serve. If this episode or any other has given you something worth thinking about, smiling at, or passing along, I've got a small ask. Share it with a friend, text it to someone, post it in your story, like or subscribe to this channel. That one simple action helps these local businesses get seen, and it helps this business keep going. Thanks for being a part of it. Now back to the show.
Delusion.
I'd imagine you put a lot of money into the space to prepare it to open.
Yeah. So I will go back to the roots of Sky Oro. We crowdfunded to open that space. The woman, her name is Christina, that I co-founded it with. We knew that we wanted to build this. We had a shared vision of bringing people together, and we weren't independently wealthy. We didn't really know whether or not people wanted it. And through our own just kind of clunking along to figure out how you build a space and have people come, we learned about the concept of crowdfunding, which ended up being beautiful because we got to both raise the money and prove the concept. What we didn't know we were doing was building something from the ground up. Like, we knew we were, but you can't ever understand the power of that until you're on the other side of it. And we had 233 women and a couple very supportive men. Some of those women didn't even live here. They were moving here and saw this was happening and wanted to have it to be part of when they got here. But they said, yep, we believe in the power of having a space like this for women, and we want to be part of it. So they basically bought in, paid their first year of membership up front, and became our founding members. And we raised $250,000 in 6 weeks while I was on maternity leave from said job that I thought I was going to go fully back to. And Christina was 6 months pregnant. There were a lot of things that went in there, but the biggest thing was that every woman understood that if she wanted something like this, she had to put her money where her mouth was and contribute to it coming to life. And we just had a lot of fun with that. We did a lot of events, we brought women together, and we did everything we could to make it a community build. I mean, there are crystals in the floor that one of our members went in and put in there, who had a personal brand called the Magical Babe and put crystals throughout the space that have like, there's been so many blessings in that space, but she contributed that. We had women who were interior designers who contributed their mark and helped us design the space out. The gals who own Treeline were like, yep, we want to support you. They've been providing coffee to our members for the entirety of our 6 years being there. All of the art in the space are women artists who have been part of the community. We have crystals in the space that are part, like a woman who owns a crystal brand has gone in and placed, and they bless the space energetically. They bless the space, but they also support her business. People can buy them, from the space. And so it's always been a community build. And when we opened, we had so much excitement and so much momentum. There were people we had 20, 30 people in the space every single day for the first 4 months. And we had a bunch of events and we had a lot of fun, so much momentum. And then you have a pandemic hit and it all shut off. And that was a moment where I felt like the rug had been snatched out from under me for obviously a number of reasons. But one of them was like, this can't go away. We can't have poured all of our heart and soul and these women's energy and everything into this, and then we don't do right by that. And I firmly believe, and I know that I am doing the work that God put me on this planet to do, which is to bring people together and to love on the ones that He puts in front of me, because Lord knows we need more of that, right? But that it's like divine power that has powered Sky Oro, because I knew, even though I had no idea what it was going to look like, that I was not at all okay with letting this go to the wayside. And I reached out to every single one of our founding members, all 233 of them in those first few months of COVID, and was like, how can I support you? What kind of conversation can we have? We can't come together physically, but I can come together with you on the phone and let's talk about what has happened in your business. What are you doing? How can I rally this community around you? And that was all I could do, right? And continue to stay in touch through our mailing list. And I tried to do some things on Zoom, but my heart wasn't in that. I realized this is never going to be a virtual community. This is a physical space community, and that's what I'm going to make sure happens. And then fast forward, 3 or 4 months into COVID, and my partner and I were like, okay, what are we going to actually do though? Because we can't just keep making phone calls. What are we going to do? And we sat down with a woman who kind of led us through, well, what are your values and what is the experience and what is the impact and what is the mission? And are you still aligned on that? And what does this look like in 5 to 10 years? And for me, it was so very clear that I was going to walk in the doors of Sky Oro and I'm going to look to the right and to the left and I'm going to know every woman in there and what they're working on and what kind of connections. It was so vivid to me. And Christina was like, not I'm actually floating above this space and I'm looking down and I'm seeing what's happening. And at this point, I had gone back to work. I was really struggling to reintegrate into my role as a new mom, but also as I had this business that I had started while on maternity leave that was taking all of my energy and all of my excitement. And I actually was realizing I was a shitty employee. And I didn't want to show up that way because I had taken so much pride in the work that I got to do. And I loved my clients and all of that. And I realized, okay, if we're going to make this thing happen, then we have to go all in on it. And I said to Christina, what do you think about this? And she was like, well, we had all this conversation trying to make sure we were still aligned with the vision. And we both agreed that on the vision, it was just how we wanted to show up. And through that, we agreed that I would get to take 3 months. So I could leave my job, take 3 months. We had that much cash in the bank to see if I could make it work. And immediately I knew I'm not going back. I'm jumping off that cliff and there's no way I'm trying to claw my way back up onto it, because I had been wanting to do that for a really long time. Ultimately, we decided to split ways because this was the thing I was willing to put everything on the line for. And she was like, I mean, I love this, but I've never believed, like, I always believe that whether or not I have something to do with this, it deserves to be here. So she gave me the blessing to just go forward with it. So when you're asking how did we survive that, it was the fact that it was built from the community up, because co-working spaces across the country had to shut down. Like Montana was a little bit more lax in our regulations around that time. So we've made it work, you know, with how we allowed people to come into the space, but we never fully like shut down where nobody could come in there. Um, and I was unwilling to let it not exist. And then when we came up on our 1-year renewals for all of those founding members, 30% of them said yes. I was like, 30% is not 233, but it's not zero. So here we go. You know, how do I serve those people? And I've just focused on service ever
Good,
since then.
good for you for sticking that out.
Yeah.
How many months was it that the doors were closed, or when could you, how long was it from COVID shutdown to when people could be back in there?
I don't even know if I would remember that. Because I mean, what did we have, like a month or two of shutdown? And then people were allowed to like slowly venture out. Social distancing was a thing. So, I mean, 2, 3 months, whatever amount of time that was, other people in Montana would probably remember better than me, because it was like, I was still like postpartum. You know, I had a barely 1-year-old when all of this went down. He wasn't even 1 yet. Um, but then we slowly started, like, we would let one person use the space. And you've been into the space.
Yeah.
It's 1,600 square feet. It's not huge, but it's not tiny. So like one person could come in the morning and then they'd have to leave and we'd go clean it. And then the next person could come in the afternoon. And then we slowly like made our way back to, I mean, over like the next 4 or 5 months, we made our way back to having more people be able to be in the space and just like distancing them the 6 feet that they needed. And I honestly don't, we tried different types of events, virtual events, things that people could connect like outside. And I don't even really remember when we started coming back fully in person on a regular basis, but I still feel like I'm building out of, maybe not the COVID time, but definitely trying to rebuild the momentum of, now it's like it's something else. It's not COVID and not coming together. It's people have went into their cocoons, rightfully so, and we became so isolated physically from each other and like authentically, you know, that I find it, women have, probably a lot of people, but I work with women and we have a really hard time reaching out and asking for help and building community and saying yes to support when it's offered to us. And I think that's probably my biggest battle that I'm fighting. Women want it, but when it comes to leaning into it and when it comes to truly taking, you know, my neighbor up on watching my kids, my mind is racing for, okay, how can I pay her? How can I say thank you? This feels so uncomfortable. Like we do struggle to let our guard down enough to have community support us. And at the same time, we know how important it is and we're craving it. And we're like somewhat withering away when we don't have it.
Yeah, I can speak to men that they have the same issue.
Yeah.
I
I'd be
think
so
that
curious to hear.
the first half that they, you know, we struggle as men to reach out for help and ask for help. We might not have all the awareness of how good it is for us, but we definitely, I just know. And I, it's funny, we were training in martial arts gym during most of 2020 and we were allowed to do it in pods. So there were,
Yeah.
say, 10 people. But it was, I know for us, and a lot of the guys spoke to this, and I've spoke to my friends, that the connection to each other in the community was vital for us.
Yeah.
Because you know, you just get isolated and cooped up. And
Yeah.
I get it, but I understand the resistance. I feel it myself when things are going terrible is when I don't want to reach out to anyone. And I don't know, it's a human thing. We don't want to. So I don't know. You could obviously speak to women and would know a lot more, but I think men probably struggle with those same things. Cool. It's very cool that you've built this. I'm the same as you in the sense virtual stuff I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
I don't even like Zoom calls. That's just always been because I do this podcast and I only do it in person.
Uh-huh.
The only time I've done a video call is with a good friend of mine who he broke his back and he's on the other side of the country. That was my exception because of that situation. But
Yeah.
I'll just never get the connection with somebody if I'm not sitting down with them. So this is the option. It's here or it doesn't happen. So much respect for you doing that.
Well, you too. I mean, it's so easy, right? To be like, oh, we can just do it via Zoom. I can just sit still and stay in my comfort zone, which there's definitely we need to honor what we're needing to but we do need physical connection. I mean, our nervous systems regulate to the person that's next to us. Sometimes that's not so great,
Yeah,
but if you have a lot of not so great nervous system regulation in your life, it's important that we find other places to have that. And I have just found that that is the experience that Sky Oro provides is it's calm, it is clean, it is I mean, this morning was kinda wild, but we had 32 women in there, there's lots of good energy. We also heal relationally. So we heal when we're able to have conversations and be like, "Fuck, this is hard. I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent this month," or, "I don't know how I'm gonna make this happen," or, "I don't know, like, this challenge seems insurmountable." To be able to say that, first and foremost, allows for processing out of our bodies, you know, and also for us to get feedback and perspective that gives us the opportunity to think about it differently, which is rerouting some of our thought patterns, which sometimes can be really, really rambunctious and not so great for us. So there's a lot of, I think, science. I don't know a lot of the science behind it, but I know that there is that healing part, which just as a human species, we have plenty to heal from in this life experience.
I agree completely. Can you speak to the space? I've been to the space. How do I want to use my words? For me, it seems very bright and expansive.
Mhm.
And I was telling you early, I'm moving out of this office space, studio space, which has been great. It has no windows.
Yeah.
I like natural light. I like room to grow, room to do more. That's how I would articulate your space. But please speak to what it is and what anyone can expect. There's a
Yeah.
lot of windows.
Yeah, lots of windows. So I like to say it is a cozy yet sophisticated space. And my invitation for really anybody to come in and use it is like, come if you need just to date yourself and sit on the couch and think through something without being interrupted. Come in if you are wanting an inspiring place to get some deep work done where you're not sidetracked by the pile of dishes, you're not thinking about the laundry that could be folded, your dog's not at your leg saying now is the time for the walk or you name it, whatever sort of distraction we have in our homes, it's a space to come in and work for that. We have meeting rooms so people can come in and meet. But the experience of walking into the space, and I train my front desk team on this, is every single human needs to be met with eye contact and a hi, how are you doing? And if you know their name, use their name because we go through our days almost just numbly not being acknowledged for the human that we are and what we've got going on. And that is my number one priority is making sure that people feel like you are welcome here. We are so glad you're here. You belong here. Show up however you are. And that is what I hope my entire team is providing. I see it, of course, when I walk in because they say hi to me, but I know that these women care deeply about being there and about being there for each other. Um, it is a pretty, like, for the most part, quiet and comfortable place to work. We don't have like our membership about 40% of our members have a membership because they want to work out of the space, which means that, and they're entrepreneurs, like largely. So their schedules vary. So at any given time, you could walk in and there could be 2 or 3 people, or there could be 10 people, just depending like on the weather and the day and the season that we're in. And the space is also a really, I mean, it has been designed very intentionally to encourage and facilitate people connecting. So there's comfortable couch space. There's a banquette along a wall that's just like delightfully pink. I mean, people notice that and it's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize that." There are just little accents that that go along with the vibe, but also just help it feel soft. And it's not overly feminine. We designed it to be comfortable and sturdy. I mean, in 6 years, we've had 2 or 3 things break, and that's it, which shout out to the interior design team who helped us with that because we haven't had to worry about a lot of that. And yeah, there's kitchen space. So if you're needing, coffee or tea, like I said earlier, Natalie and her team at Treeline keep us well caffeinated. We have some delightful teas and just do our best to make it so that you don't have to haul everything from home if you are coming in to work in the space. And it just, you feel like the door says you have arrived, and you really have. Like, you've arrived for you. Just whatever you need to leave at the door, leave it, check it there. If you need to come in and like share it and have witness to it, that's okay too. That's what my team at the front is for. And you're always going to find somebody in there who would be happy to just like give you a hug and see how you're doing on a not I'm good level. We call that like grocery store talk, but like, actually, how are you doing? Today's really hard. Yeah, I feel you. I have that conversation almost on a daily basis. So it's very welcoming. It's very warm, and that is very intentional, but it's also very organic, which is a blessing. But that's what people are wanting, and they reciprocate that when they come into the space. Um, yeah. What else about the space? So we do a lot of events. So if you come to an event, you might walk in and it might be really busy and buzzy, or you might be the first one there and you get to help set the tone for what the experience is. The events are for our members. They're member led. Members of the community can host events. We had like the United Way was in there last night. They're launching a Women United community group. And they had their launch happy hour in our space last night. We had a breakfast this morning for funders and founders. And so there's just so many different organizations and groups that have used it for things like that. But then we have beautiful celebrations in there. Earlier in this month, we had a micro wedding in the space. And later that week, we had a celebration of life. And it just like, I couldn't ever have fathomed the expansiveness of the just hard, dark times and the light, like celebration times, all of it happening, and it just can hold all of that. So yeah, that's a little bit about the space.
When you were describing it earlier and you were talking about tree line giving the coffee and the art on the wall and the crystals, this popped into my head that that place is a living, breathing expression of all the founders and all the people that built the place,
Yeah.
yourself included and everyone. So I'm sure that's felt by everyone that's in there. There's an energy to a place, and with the light and just the expand, I just keep thinking of expansion, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah. I love that you're using the term expansion, that you keep landing on that, because if I had my way, which I don't always, but I do see it happen, is somebody can walk into that space, immediately feel the welcome and the warmth, but also the expansion. So like, yes, you belong here, and we want to meet you at your edge, right? We want to support you in pushing up against your edge. That's where the expansion happens. And I have seen women walk in, look around, I can watch their body reaction, and they start to ideate about what could become possible for them in a space like this. And that's what I love to think about Sky Oro as, is like, it's actually has very little to do with me anymore, which is a really fun place to be in growing a business, and has everything to do with what does it make possible for the women who come in if they're bold enough and courageous enough to think about it. Some of them have ideas as soon as they walk in. Some of them, it takes a while. Some of them have to just attend and be part of it. And then they start to realize, oh, if they can do something like this, I can do something like this. And so I have described it as being like a canvas for what is it that you want to make happen. The event that we had this morning, it was a member of mine. She lives part-time in Whitefish, part-time in Bozeman. She was like, I have a friend coming down from Whitefish. We're really passionate about bringing women together. We have a women's world domination group that meets on a regular basis, and we want to bring women in the funders and the founders space together to just start having more conversation around who are we? What are we building? What do we want to make happen? What are we needing? How do we gather that? And I was able to be like, okay, when you want to do it, I can connect you to somebody who can bring in the food. And it was so easy, but all she had to do is say, this is my vision. And it's fun to be able to say, use the space as you will. I'll make sure it's communicated. I'll make sure the invitations that need to go out, go out. You get to come, show up, and make the event happen. And, for 32 women to show up on a Friday morning, that's a huge thing. A couple of them I know could have been elsewhere doing things that, move the needle, but they chose to be there because community is important. But the thing that was really exciting for me is it wasn't my doing. It was the women who saw the opportunity and knew that the space would fit it and did it. And that's fucking cool.
Yeah. And you created the space for those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I told you, bringing it up again, that I'm moving, but so I think expansion is just really front of mind for me, but I'm always like I want all the space and all the room. And I don't know, it's life, it's growth. That's very cool. Man, I've got to tell you something really funny though. Do you want to know the first time I went in Sky Oro?
Do I want to know or do I remember?
Do you want to know?
Yeah.
It was for speed dating.
Oh, you did tell me this before.
I thought, and shout out to my buddy Kyle because he did it with me.
Nice.
And it was funny because we were like junior to everyone there by like 10 to 15 years. We had so much fun.
Uh-huh.
We otherwise never would have talked with these women.
Yeah.
We had a great experience. It was very funny.
I mean, another example, Jamie, she's one of our members. She does a speed dating event on a quarterly basis. And I have people in the community say, thank you for having that space because this is my foray into like finding relationships after really hard times, you know? So it's just like the space is so critical. Yeah.
So it cracks me up.
Was Amy at that speed dating event?
No.
No, she didn't live here yet, did she?
Yeah, and I've been to a few other events there. It's a very cool space. Yeah. And you do have the private rooms too, if people want to book those. Is that explain how that works? Or?
Yeah, so we have a couple rooms that people can book. We have a large meeting room that is great for like people will come in. We have a couple gentlemen that come in and do their annual planning. They have a landscape design company that's actually based in Idaho, and they love to come into that space. But we have people who want to bring their team out of their office. They don't want to do a hotel conference room. So it's great for smaller teams, so 8 people. And it's private. And we have a small meeting room, a couple phone booths, and then a fully private office space that people can rent. It's also available for my members to utilize. So throughout the day, mostly it's members, but like 2 to 3 times a week, we have somebody coming in who's not a member, who's just paying to rent a room by the hour. We also offer day passes. So we every once in a while have somebody drop in who's cruising through town or who's just, needing to meet a client or needing to get out of the house, and they just drop in for the day.
So men can rent out. You said gentlemen are renting out this conference space.
Yeah.
And then, and women are just full-time members essentially, or can be, or they can have a day pass or month pass.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is interesting. And I'll share it here because it's a fun thing to just play with. Actually, we have had a few male members. There was one man named Jim in 2021. So, beginning of 2021, excuse me, he was like living his best life out of his Mercedes Sprinter van, made his way to Montana and was here for a while. And he was looking for a co-working space and there really wasn't anything else available. He worked out of Sky Oro for like 6 months. And legally I can't say no to men, but also most of the time now they have other options that are more like fitting. But so he was there. And then another guy who is married to one of our founding members was working out of there because he just needed a space. Those are the only 2 men who've ever been, one other. So they've been members. Now, most of the time it is a client of a member who's coming in that's a male. But like next week we have a gentleman that I've never met before who rented our large meeting room who, they usually hear about it word of mouth, and we love to bring them in because they appreciate the space, and it's a beautiful space to work, and their clients are impressed, whatever it is that they're doing. Every once in a while, we'll have a man who will do a drop-in pass, and I have had members tell me, like, when a man walks in to work there for the day, it totally shifts the vibe.
That's so fun. Makes sense.
Like completely shifts it. And so I always kind of like I'm like, I gotta just like lay some ground. I've learned I have to lay some groundwork just some ground rules of like, here's what you can expect. And it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, my members notice. And a lot of them just really love. I've had a couple people comment recently on like, I never realized how cool and how important it could feel to be in a space that's the majority only women coming and going from it. It changes the energy. It's soft and it's just safe, Now we've had a few women come in with very, very intense energy and not really understand like how we approach things that has shifted it. But I can't believe that that has not happened. Like I could count on half of one hand the number of times that that's happened. So it's just a very blessed space.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like this place can be rented for a lot of different events.
Yep.
How broadly should people think? Anything? What's the max amount of people you'd want to have in there, and what's the max occupancy for an event?
Yeah, great question. So we have 53 seats total in the space. The space is best for an experience that is meant to be casual and connection focused. So we, in the holiday season, have a lot of holiday parties that small group offices will rent the space for. I think I would say that the majority of our rentals are baby showers. We have bridal showers coming up this weekend. We have like a family gathering post wedding. So, like, the wedding's on Saturday. This gal actually had her bridal shower in the space. She's getting married, and then her sister rented it to do like the next morning. We're doing a brunch before our family disperses. So it's things like that. We generally have a couple graduation parties, college graduation, high school graduation. We've had 70th birthday parties, 50th birthday parties, and those are generally the types of events that people have where they will bring in hors d'oeuvre style food, or like it's not a sit down meal. I like to encourage, like, I like to say that the most amount of people you would want to fully have in there is around 60. Because mostly if it's a casual gathering, people are going to be standing and moving through the space. Not everybody's going to be sitting at the same time. So that's the highest number. We've had events in there that 65, 70, the day before COVID hit, and I'm using air quotes there, we had an event that was like 95 people.
Oh, wow.
The next day I was like, somebody certainly had COVID in that room last night. But that was a full room, but it can fit that. I mean, I don't recommend that if if you really want like deep connection. On the flip side, though, what's really cool about it is that if you have a group of 5 people, of 6, 7, 10 people, the space still feels perfectly sized. It doesn't feel like you're getting eaten up. It doesn't feel like the space is too big. It's just very intimate, and it's a really cool place. So we have a lot of events where like we'll have between 5 and 10 women show up, and it doesn't feel like that's not enough. And so that is a feature that a lot of small venues in the Bozeman area I don't think offer, or that's just how it's designed. That speaks to the beautiful design of it. So I have a lot of people inquiring about renting it because they are not finding other small venues in Bozeman.
Is it a full kitchen that it has?
Not a full kitchen.
Okay.
No.
What's the extent of what you can do with that kitchen in there?
Yeah, I always like if you wanted to bring in your own sterno trays where you bring in the flames and all of that, that's my recommendation for keeping things hot. I might end up investing. I've started to see these like heating pads that people could like cook something at home and then bring it in. We had a wedding celebration in there, and the caterer brought in a bunch of their own like flat tops to cook on. That got a little unwieldy. So my recommendation is whatever is being cooked is done elsewhere. That being said, we have a really cool patio area outside the back kitchen door. So we have a like a dentist office holiday party happening this winter, and the caterer that they hired is actually bringing a grill. So she's going to do everything on the grill right outside. The door comes in and out of the kitchen easy. So that's something that she is going to make work. And I always recommend caterers, like we have 2 or 3 of them that are women owned and that are they're comfortable with the space. They understand how the space works, which actually takes a lot of planning load off of the person who's renting it if I can recommend a caterer that knows what they're working with. So yeah, so to fully answer your question, the extent of the space, we have a toaster oven, we have a microwave oven, it's got a full kitchen island that you can move around 360 degrees, and then a full fridge. And so people just kind of work with that.
So they'll understand that's the extent of what they can do there.
Yeah.
Most stuff will be prepared if they're going to cater it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it's on the caterer to bring in whatever needs to be there in order to keep things hot, or whatever temperature they need things to be.
Do you have any plans for doing anything any different than than the way things are going now there?
Not in this space. I my ultimate vision and what I'm currently like actively working towards is that again, I love if I were to build a different space, which is on my roadmap and on, part of my vision, I would do things differently. And that's just comes with anything. You build something, you don't really know what you're building. You see what your limitations are and where your like real um loud squeaky spots are in the experience. And so, I would like wouldn't do full glass doors that don't have the ability to fully seal because that affects the noise. I would do the soundproofing differently. I would think about that differently. I would probably, I mean, if I have the same amount of space, I might play with it slightly. But honestly, it comes down to like, what am I trying to provide? I'm trying to provide space. I'm not trying to provide a full kitchen, but that gives opportunity for me to be really creative in the partnerships that I have. And so even going into this holiday season, I've had a lot of people ask like, okay, so can you work with the caterer or do offer food? And so that gives me the opportunity to say to Jessica, who catered the event this morning, like, hey, what kind of like packages could we offer? And then it just allows me to collaborate more with women, which is ultimately part of the mission of Sky Oro. Um, but my vision is that Sky Oro, as a community and as an activated network for those ambitious women who are building things that are mission driven, impact centered, this community is accessible to those women no matter where they live. So if they're in Billings, we have a small cohort of women who are members who live in Billings. I have a lot of interest in the Missoula area and in the Great Falls area and in the Whitefish area. So I'm excited about finding key partners in each of those markets to play with what does it look like to expand access to the events in the way Sky Oro does them, and our community through our digital platform. And then as I explore hosting events and playing around with that, I will find the women I know or the partners, whoever they are, that want to go in on building a space, because building a physical space and building a community that gathers are two very different risk
Yeah, yeah,
levels and commitment levels. So I'm excited about that too, because then that opens up the opportunity for um, just value of the company and revenue and all that. Currently, as it stands, I just lease that space. I don't have the opportunity to buy it. There's not really opportunity in that building to expand in a way that makes sense for me right now. So I
yeah.
just get to be really creative with what I have.
I'd imagine with the network you've created that you'll probably naturally find those people in other cities
Yeah.
with, you know, probably just not even asking around that much. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to see that in their town or city.
Yeah. And I had this conversation this morning, like what it comes down to is me being really clear about what I want and then asking for it
Yeah.
and not, pussyfooting around it, not pretending like I don't have clarity around what I want. So I'm excited to have had that conversation today to remind me of, okay, am I really clear on what I want? And then just go ask, you know, and I will find it. So I'm really looking forward to that. I am currently in a phase of business building, though, where I am extracting the build of this thing out of my body and into process and into procedure and into structure that I can delegate so that it is replicatable and it is profitable, because I have so long just been a one woman show in terms of like people who are being paid by the company to make things happen. And I'm ready to not. I'm ready to start building a team that I can delegate those things to that will pave the way for me to make these bigger moves. So yeah, that's an exciting
Yeah,
and terrifying place to be.
it takes time, and it's a big change, and I can relate just
Yeah.
to delegate and to relinquish. I can't even say that.
Relinquish.
Rel- to release the control,
Yeah, totally.
just to let somebody else, you know,
Yeah.
take that.
Yeah.
So I can totally relate.
Because it's not even just releasing control. I mean, I had the great opportunity to be part of a program, an entrepreneurship program this spring that was hosted and funded by Goldman Sachs. And I went through this 12-week program that's called 10,000 Small Businesses. And I essentially got an MBA in my own business, which was really fun. And it was so much. It was so much work, so much effort, and so valuable. One of the biggest takeaways I had from that was why I kept failing, or I had clarity around why I keep failing on this delegation piece. And I realized, because I was like, I'm not a control freak. Like, I don't care how you do it, to a fault where I was trying to delegate things, but I was only delegating like 60% of it. And then I remained in some portion of it because I didn't have clarity about what I was actually doing or how to delegate that out. So that was really an aha moment for me of like, okay, it's willingness to relinquish control, also willingness to take the time to get super clear on what even needs to happen and what are the systems I have in place so it can happen, and then hand it over. Because if I'm remaining the bottleneck because I've handed you 60, 70% and said, but it still needs to come through me, like that's not control. I just didn't know how to get it out of my head, you know? So,
Yeah, building the SOP other than say, hey, I don't care, just get it done. But yeah, you're gonna have to follow up with me because there's no
yeah,
that makes a lot of
there's a
sense.
gap in the SOP and it's me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That'd be hard to think of though. That'd be easy to miss if you haven't done it before.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah. Fell on my, I mean, spent so much money with bad hires, fallen all over myself trying to have people help me. And that was like the thing that needed to be unlocked in that realm. So, yeah.
Remind me to connect you with somebody after too that might be a good resource.
Ooh, yes. Thank you.
Where does the name Sky Oro come from?
Okay. So this one I take zero credit for. My partner, Christina, had the name and the business, like the LLC, established before her and I ever even met, or my founding partner. And she named it so Big Sky State. It's a state we all love and call home. And that's where the sky comes from. And then Oro is on our state seal, Oro y Plata. And that the fact that she wanted to build a community for women was really an ode to the women who came out to the Wild West and were willing to grit their teeth and do what it takes to make it work, to honor what is required to live in a place like Montana, right? Like it's not really for the faint of heart. I mean, Bozeman is starting to feel a little soft, but like Montana's a gritty place to live and to be and to thrive. You have to make it happen. And so it was an ode to the original entrepreneurs and women who were willing to push up against their edges to come out west.
The Hardy Women.
The Hardy women. Yeah. I had one member at one point be like, yeah, they also knew they were great marketers. They knew their audience because they had brothels. And I was just like, I always crack up about that because yeah, women had to do like unwieldy work to make it happen for themselves.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
What should anyone know about you? How'd you get into doing any of this, and why'd you decide to have a business? Did you have a business background prior to Sky Oro?
Yeah, I love to think about this. I don't often say much of this out loud. So I'm from Helena, grew up actually kind of straight between Montana and Alaska, but I went to high school in Helena, so my roots are in Montana. And my grandparents, like my dad grew up on a farm in Townsend, and so I grew up going to the farm in the summertime, and they had people constantly coming. I mean, they were just like, oh, you're coming through Townsend, you need a meal, like go to the Deals. They are going to feed you. And they just took care of their people. And so that was just something that was ingrained in me. I saw it happen, and I loved to just like, even if I wasn't having the conversations, just seeing the people and being part of that. My extroverted self was very fueled. And all through college, I mean, starting in high school through college and even after grad school, I was in the service industry. So I've always been just like a heart-led servant of people. And I love people and I care deeply about people. And so that's where I think my grittiness and my stick-to-itness come from, because I get to do that, which makes it feel like work that is really aligned with me. But I went to school in Minnesota. I went to grad school there in for public health. And so my background and my education has all been in public health. A lot of the work that I've done when I haven't been serving tables or, behind a bar has been in the public health realm. And I ended up graduating and coming back to Montana, landing in Helena, working, getting the job that felt really exciting, and I had the opportunity to climb the corporate ladder. But I always had this fear or this discomfort with having just one income stream. So I was always like, the only way I'm going to make money is if I get a raise, like the only way I'm going to get ahead is like climbing this ladder and getting a raise. And so I always played with things. Like I've been in so many multi-level marketing companies or direct networking, whatever kind of companies they are. I've sold Kirby vacuums. I have like cleaned hotel rooms. I've done all sorts of things, just doing what I could to make sure that I had revenue. But the multi-level marketing, I was always intrigued by them because I was like, oh, this is a huge opportunity for me to make whatever I want to make happen. And there was always something missing. Like I couldn't figure it out, or I couldn't make it go, or like I would get turned off by the approach, or nobody was saying yes, like all of the things that happen. And so I just like kind of left those where they were each time. I'd sink a bunch of money into them. I'd get excited. I would try the thing and it wouldn't go. And then I would just leave it. So that's my background in terms of work. When I was out of grad school and working for this company, I got to fly to Phoenix because that's where the company was based. And they went through this huge transition, which required renovating an office, and all of our software engineers got to work out of a collaborative workspace that I got to go see randomly on one of those trips. I never got to work out of it, but I got to see it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It was huge. It was expansive. There was a keg on tap. I was in
Mm.
my early 20s, like that, or mid 20s. That felt fun. But there was a lot of energy in there, and I could see people collaborating. And that was really fun for me because I'm, a couple years out of grad school. And then I would go home to Helena where I lived, and my client that I was working with in Helena was the health department. So enter like, unfortunately, the health department is like dark, dingy, gray carpets, cubicle land. And the people that were there, they had a big task, a big job in front of them that we were trying to help them solve through the company that I work for in the health technology space. But there wasn't the like ambition piece was missing, and the willingness to solve hard problems. It was like kind of throw our hands up or get mad at the other person for making it not work. And I was getting really frustrated because I would go to the health department 3 days a week, and then I'd work from home in my little attic apartment 2 days a week. And I was like, what? I feel like I'm getting dumber. Like I can't solve these problems. What's happening? Who do I talk to? And I had this very stark like thing to compare it to, which was being in grad school where you're constantly surrounded by people who are way smarter than you, like blowing my mind with the things that these people could comprehend. So anyway, it was a very natural thing for me to get excited about when I stepped into this collaborative workspace. And from there, I just started talking about it, talked about it to my brother. I was like, Colton, he's an architect. We could build something like this in Helena. It'd be really cool. The space matters, like the way that it feels and the way that it looks matters. And then he sent me an article about The Wing, which was a women-centric co-working and community space on the East Coast that was blowing up. They had like all this VC funds being poured into them from companies like WeWork, and co-working spaces were starting to become more popular and more prevalent. And I was like, doing this for women? That sounds really, really cool. And a key part of it is the woman who was the president and the CEO of that company, I related to her. She was young, she was ambitious, she was going for it, and she's making it happen. And I looked at that and I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. Which is like the heart and soul of something, like to be in a room. I didn't even get to be in a room with her. I would have loved it though, to just recognize if they can do it, I can do it, because I have some similar level of guts to me. And I knew that at this point. And then I had been wanting to make my way back to Bozeman because I had lived in Bozeman before. I loved Bozeman. I went to school in Bozeman. And I just started talking to people, reached out to the university. They have a entrepreneurship center, started having conversations there, and connections were made, which is another really like through line of Sky Oro is like, you need a space you can have conversation. Even I always say like I word vomited my idea all over the first few people who would listen to me. And then they made connections because they cared enough to listen. And through those connections, I was introduced to Christina, who graciously sat down with me and shared everything she'd been doing for the past year and a half to bring women together. She was trying to test whether or not this concept would work. She was getting stuck. She's like, I don't know how to fund it, and I don't know where it's going to live. And that was the point in her journey that we met. So she had like a year-ish a year and a half under her belt of hosting events, bringing women together, having conversations. And I came in and I was like, well, I'm really excited. And I just met you. And I've had this idea for like 3 months. And you've been working on it for a year. And I don't live in Bozeman yet. I also just found out I'm pregnant. Do you want to do this together? And she was like, sure, why not? And then just the rest is history. Literally,
That's
because
so cool.
yeah, the moment we came together, we, complemented each other in a way that pushed this thing through and over the finish line. There is no way in hell I would have done this without her. And she was trying to do it on her own and she wasn't getting anywhere. I mean, she was getting to the point she was at, but she was stuck and she was like, I don't know what to do next. So that is the backstory.
That's very cool the way
Sky
that all
Oro,
tied
yeah.
together. Where in Alaska did you go between?
So when I was like 3, my dad moved us out to the island of Unalaska, which is way out on the Aleutian chain for a longshoring job. And so we were there for years and then came back to Montana. And then like my dad went back up there a few times to make some money. And then landed in Montana. So over the amount of time he was back up there, like I lived with him for a year. So those few pockets of time. And then now my mom lives up there. She actually married somebody from the Kenai Peninsula. So now we get to go up there and spend a lot of time down on the Kenai River. So those are the 2 places where I have spent the most time in Alaska.
I haven't been, but I have family in Fairbanks.
Go.
Don't know where it compares geographically to where you're.
Let's see. My geography of Alaska is not that great, but it's like a backwards A. So the Aleutian chain is like the tail of the A, and then the Kenai Peninsula is like below the tail down south, and then Fairbanks is somewhere like northish, northeast of both of those places, I believe.
I'll get there at some point.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you earlier. You said the woman that was doing the co-working space on the East Coast, is she still doing it?
No.
I was gonna say you should reach out to her.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool to meet her?
It would be cool. She's doing something else. And now I'm blanking on her name, but no, unfortunately, that organization did not fare well in COVID, and they had a lot of just like organizational drama. And I don't know, I would say poor leadership just from an outsider looking in at how it was handled and where it ultimately ended up going. But I did not stay super plugged into that because I knew enough to know that I just need to focus on this. And so even now we have co-working spaces coming into Bozeman, and of course the like gut wrench of like, oh, another co-working space, but it just is an opportunity for me to be like, but what is my mission truly? It's not building a co-working space. It is supporting women and creating space and experiences that women don't have the opportunity to plug into in other places. So, when I find women who are doing things like that, that's when I'm like, let's have conversations.
It sounds like you know what you're doing and you know what your mission is. And I think from what I've heard from you, it's very different and unique and specific. So
Yeah.
it's tough in business to look at other people doing what you're doing and not feel that competition. Yeah. But when you can focus on what you do, that it's not competition. And I do my best to stay in that mindset. What I'm doing is very unique to what anyone else is doing. And you can replicate the company to an extent, but you can't replicate me and what I'm doing. And I just, when I'm in that mindset, I'm in my favorite mindset.
Totally. And that's one of the things I think that helps Sky Oro come to life too, is like, it's not competition, it's collaboration. I think we had like 6 or 7 women in the marketing space when we opened Sky Oro, and they all joined because they each knew who their audience was and who they wanted to work with and the very unique thing that they could provide. And I actually saw a lot of collaboration between them of like passing clients around or coming up with really creative ways for them to all work together so that everybody got, what they needed. But yeah, there's some magic in knowing like what lights me up, what's my North Star, and being like steadfast, or at least knowing that there's a filter to look through, when things like that come up, or when like I let myself feel it in my body, but it doesn't get to stick around and be the thing that makes decisions for me.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Austin from Nexus Coffee did the podcast a while back. He was talking about he had a term for it. It's from a book he mentioned, but it was kind of like uh, growing horizontally, like meaning the community grows with you. And he uses all these other businesses. Someone gets his food, he gets his coffee beans from this place, he gets his, his pastries from this place, and that they he can lift the other businesses with his.
Yeah.
And similar to what you were saying with the catering, and if people in the space can think, how can we complement each other? And people directly in my industry I work with, because we can serve bigger groups of clients and do big corporate retreats, transportation,
Yeah.
because we need 8 vehicles.
Yeah.
And now we can serve 80 people.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that on my own, and neither
Mm-hmm.
can they. But when you can have that mindset of working together, you really can all do better and do more. So it's
Yeah.
very cool if you can stay in that mindset.
Yeah. And that mindset also unlocks it like an element of fun that I think we lose when we're just like nose to the I mean, there are times to put your nose to the grindstone, but when the opportunity comes to be able to collaborate, it's like there's so much learning, there's so much more energy. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not doing this by myself. Somebody else can contribute their resources and their ideas. And I have made it a commitment to myself that I will not let the element of fun and joy slip away from this, because building a business, like there's a grind season and it becomes not fun, honestly, in sometimes. And so, yeah, the fun comes for me, especially when I get to collaborate.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Where can people find Sky Oro and find out more about what you guys do?
Okay. So you can find us on Instagram. It's at Sky Oro Women. You can look at our website, which is skyoro.club. And when you jump on our newsletter from our website, that is the fastest way to be plugged in immediately to just learning more about Sky Oro, having a place to go to find where you can see our upcoming events. We have a lot of our events are for members only, but we also do have a number of events that are open to the public. So there is a place where people can subscribe to our events space and be in the know about those things. And you'll probably hear us talked about around Bozeman. I get so many people coming through my door saying 3 people recommended Sky Oro, so here I am. So anyway, yeah, that's where you can find us, and um, be honored to be able to meet anybody who is curious about Sky Oro or has an idea or a question or anything. I love to answer those questions.
Very cool. Amanda, thank you for being here and doing what you do. And hopefully some more people hear this are inspired to come check it out.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for the invitation and also for showing up and being committed to this, because having a space to ask people to tell their story, we we need more of that, and it's a really powerful platform. So I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for listening, folks. You can find the full blog post for every episode, along with key takeaways and links at mountain-mule.com. If you haven't yet, consider following the show. That one small action helps these Montana businesses get seen, grow, and thrive, and it helps this podcast keep going too. If you know a business that would be a good fit for the show, we'd love to hear from you. Just reach out through the website or social. Thank you for supporting these Montana businesses. See you on the next show.